Talks have wrapped up between the United States and the Taliban, their first meeting since the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan nearly 6 weeks ago. The two sides discussed security and human rights, with Washington describing the conversation as candid and professional. For more, we're now joined by Lazima Gomes, live for us in Doha. So tell us more about these talks.
With the conclusion of the two teams in Doha between and US delegation, senior Taliban representatives have said that they have had positive discussions with US and they have begun meeting with the European Union representatives. According to Al Jazeera, the Americans aren't offering any details in the talks that concluded. Earlier, US officials had said that the meeting with the Taliban representatives was not about granting recognition or conferring legitimacy to the Taliban. However, the Taliban is hopeful that the talks pave a way for recognition of the Afghan government, not only by the United States, but the international community as well. According to Al Jazeera, the Afghan delegation led by Afghan Acting Foreign Minister Mullah Amir Khan Muttaqi also came to Doha seeking financial assistance that comes with any sort of international recognition. The highlights of the meeting seem to have been humanitarian aid, implementation of the 2020 agreement between America and Taliban, as well as terrorism. Muttaqi further informed that the delegation asked the US to lift its ban on the reserve of Afghanistan's central bank. The US had earlier stated that they would press the Taliban to ensure that Afghanistan does not become a base for terrorist attacks, and their priority would remain the continued safe departure of Afghans, US citizens, and other foreign nationals. Adding that another goal was to urge the Taliban to respect the rights of all Afghans, including women. The delegation of the Islamic Emirates of Afghan also met with the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Qatar, Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani, where the two discussed economic projects in Afghanistan and other issues. Qatar has been playing a key diplomatic role over the past years to facilitate talks between US and Taliban, while it has also played a major role in evacuating Afghans and foreigners from Afghanistan. Qatar is currently housing thousands of Afghan refugees. Recently, Qatar also announced plans to relocate American University of Afghanistan campuses to Qatar, where students will continue to pursue their education under a safe environment.
All right, Lazima Gomes, live for us in Doha. Meanwhile, families are mourning their loved ones after a suicide bombing at a mosque in northern Afghanistan. Dozens were killed in Friday's blast in Kunduz. It's the latest in a series of attacks that have targeted Afghanistan's new Taliban rulers. Eyewitnesses describe the devastation.
We were about to stand for the Friday prayer behind the mullah. We were sitting right there, and a suicide bomber was in the center of the mosque. Bodies were everywhere. Some didn't have hands, some didn't have feet, and some didn't have heads.
At the time, even the district hospital would not accept the wounded patients and would take them out and suggest that the patients be taken to Doctors Without Borders because the district hospital did not have the capacity.
And we asked a professor from Salam University about possible motives behind these attacks.
I think in order to understand the motives behind these attacks, we need to go a little bit back, because the existence of ISIS is not as a result of Taliban's takeover of the recent situation in Afghanistan. ISIS did exist in Afghanistan since 2015, and they have launched those kinds of attacks in Afghanistan, even during the existence of Americans, huge existence, military and intelligence existence of Americans, and they did attack the Shia minority, which they consider to be non-Muslims and their enemies, as the ISIS or ISKP, or ISKP, which we call them now, or they themselves call them now, they consider Shia Muslims in minority to be their enemy and non-Muslims. That's why they are attacking it. But there are some certain messages from this attack, is that they, as an opposing group to the Taliban, considering Taliban also non-Muslims, that they are sending a message to internally to the Afghanistan people and also to the international community, is that Taliban is not only excluding Shia minority from the government, but also Taliban is unable to protect the Shia minority in their worship centers, their masjids. So that is a clear message from ISIS or ISKP to Taliban is that we exist here and we prove that you are unable to protect the country from our attacks, and also a clear message to the region and a clear message to the international community. The Taliban is no more capable of controlling the country as they claim to be. So I think that would be the motive behind these attacks.
So let's continue this conversation and bring in Professor Wang Jin. He's joining us now from Xi'an on the phone. He's a specialist in Middle Eastern Studies at China's Northwest University. Professor, good to have you with us. So, you know, the United States and the Taliban used to be enemies. Now they're having talks in Doha. What do you think the future relationship is going to look like between these two?
I think the bilateral ties between Afghan Taliban and the United States, they might have hopes, and they might have a lot of area that could be cooperated, but there were still many more difficulties and many more distrust between the two parts, because from the perception of the United States that the Afghan Taliban-led the new government, they still have to improve the laws, they still have to become more inclusive, they still have to protect for example, the female rights and the ethnic minorities' rights, and should be more open to the different religions and sectarian groups. But for the Afghan Taliban, the United States should restrain themselves from attacking directly into the Afghan targets inside Afghanistan, and also the United States should compensate for what they did inside Afghanistan during the past 2 decades. So actually their perceptions will be very conflicting. They might have the opportunities to cooperate with each other to attack the ISIS and other terrorist groups inside Afghanistan, but then the difficulties might prevail between the two sides.
Well, let's talk more about that. These other groups that are inside Afghanistan working against the Taliban now. You mentioned ISIS-K, the Islamic State group, behind a series of attacks, including a mosque bombing on Friday that killed dozens of people. So how big of a challenge is this going to be for the Taliban moving forward?
I think it will become the very major challenge because the ISIS-K, their ideology, their goals actually are to challenge the authority and the dominant status of the Afghan Taliban inside Afghanistan. So that is why the conflict between the two parts will be prevail in the future. And meanwhile, we have to know that Afghan Taliban-led new government, they hope to get the recognition of the international society so that they can get the support and assistance of the international society to attack and counterattack the terrorism and the network inside Afghanistan. But that need time, and that also needs the understandings of the international society, and that also means that Afghan Taliban have to change their behaviors to adopt new standards to get the support and the recognition of the international society. So that also needs time. So finally, I think Afghan Taliban also have to fight against the terrorist network inside the country to get the understandings of international society, and then earlier recognition and the support from international society. That is very, very important, Jonathan.
Yeah, a lot of challenges on multiple fronts there for the Taliban. Okay, Professor Wang Jin from China's Northwest University, thank you.